It's time for a history lesson. A history lesson on spanning tree protocol. Dating all the way back to the 1980s, when spanning tree protocol was originally invented. It was invented by Radia Perlman in the 80s while she worked at Digital Equipment Corp. Bridged networks were used back in the day, so we had bridges instead of switches. But there was a need back then. And that need was to create redundant topologies without layer 2 loops. So they experienced broadcast storms, multiple frame copies, and so Radia Perlman came up with spanning tree protocol, which would prevent that loop from happening while still having the redundancy and high availability that was needed in those bridged environments. So the original version of spanning tree protocol wasn't even a standard. But then eventually, it became a standard, an IEEE standard known as 802.1d. However, it was simply one spanning tree instance for one VLAN, one subnet, one network, because that's all that existed back then. We didn't have VLANs. We couldn't break up our layer 2 environment into all these little separate VLANs. So it was relatively simple in the beginning. But then along came VLANs. So there came a need for supporting all the VLANs within spanning tree. So common spanning tree was introduced, still 802.1d. However, all the VLANs in your environment would be part of spanning tree protocol. But it was just one instance for all VLANs. Whereas the original implementation of spanning tree protocol was one instance, one VLAN, because there was only that one VLAN or that one subnet or one network. However, Cisco saw the need for more control over the spanning tree environment. If you have every single VLAN using the same instance of spanning tree protocol, then all traffic follows the same link within the environment. So if you have 10 VLANs, all the traffic for all 10 VLANs flows across the same links, flows through the same switches. So even though you have redundancy, you can't use the redundant links. So Cisco introduces per VLAN spanning tree, or per VLAN spanning tree plus now. Per VLAN spanning tree is obsolete. It's no longer used. It's per VLAN spanning tree plus. But what it does is it provides a separate spanning tree instance for each and every single VLAN. So now if you have 10 VLANs, you can have certain VLANs using certain paths through the network, while other VLANs are using different paths through the network, simply by manipulating and modifying the spanning tree infrastructure. So essentially, in the end, you're modifying on a virtual basis which ports are blocked for which VLANs. But look at the difference between the resources needed between spanning tree protocol and common spanning tree protocol. Very, very low resource utilization because there was only one instance of spanning tree protocol, so only one calculation has to be done for all VLANs. But with per VLAN spanning tree plus, it's very, very high resource usage because you're having a separate spanning tree topology, a separate calculation for every single VLAN in your environment. So the more VLANs, the more resources are needed for spanning tree protocol. But it is Cisco proprietary. And it is the default spanning tree version that is running on our Cisco Catalyst switches. However, times change, times progress. And what do we need? Speed. Notice here that the convergence time of per VLAN spanning tree plus and everything before it is slow, relying on timers. So rapid spanning tree protocol was invented, and it's known as 802.1w. 802.1w. Now I have a way to remember 802.1w. And that is by remembering how to pronounce an R. If I'm Elmer Fudd, how does Elmer Fudd pronounce R's? As W's. That wascally wabbit. Well, in this case, if Elmer Fudd was instructing each and every single one of you, it would be WAPID spanning tree protocol. WAPID spanning tree protocol. So that's how I remember it. The W, WAPID, going with the R. So rapid spanning tree protocol 802.1W. Classic common spanning tree protocol 802.1D. Those are the industry standards. Notice resource utilization is a little higher. It's medium. And the reason why is because rapid spanning tree protocol is faster. Therefore, it requires a little bit more work, a little bit more information being sent at regular intervals to make sure that it is rapid and it can converge faster than its predecessors. So convergence is fast. But notice that when the standard was created, one spanning tree instance for every single VLAN. Okay. So that's like a step back. If you're using per VLAN spanning tree plus with Cisco, you're taking a step back. So Cisco comes out with rapid per VLAN spanning tree plus, or per VLAN rapid spanning tree protocol plus, and you are getting one instance, one spanning tree instance for each and every single VLAN in your environment. 10 VLANs, 10 spanning tree instances. 100 VLANs, 100 spanning tree instances. Therefore, resource utilization is very, very high, because not only are you dealing with the number of instances has increased to being exactly the number of VLANs you have, but in addition, you're now dealing with that rapid convergence that's going to be happening. It's a little higher, but that is Cisco proprietary as well. So by default, we have per VLAN spanning tree plus running, but we can change it to Cisco's rapid per VLAN spanning tree plus as needed. And that really is the recommendation. You shouldn't be using PVST plus. You should be moving on to rapid per VLAN spanning tree plus. Now, we also have another one here, multiple spanning tree protocol, which is an industry standard 802.1s, but it was devised based on Cisco. Cisco saw the need to have the ability to control the number of spanning tree instances. So if you had 100 VLANs, but you didn't want to have 100 spanning tree instances, you only wanted to have 2 spanning tree instances, well, then you could use multiple spanning tree protocol, because it gives you the ability to say, I want these VLANs in this spanning tree instance and these VLANs in that spanning tree instance. So you have control now. And as a result, less resources are needed because you have less spanning tree instances for the same number of VLANs that you'd have with rapid spanning tree protocol. So instead of having 100 spanning tree instances, because if you have 100 VLANs, now you have 2 spanning tree instances, 50 in one spanning tree instance, or 50 VLANs in one spanning tree instance, and 50 VLANs in the other spanning tree instance. So it was an idea that was devised by Cisco, and it eventually became an industry standard known as 802.1s.